If you're over 50 and noticing more hair in the shower drain, a thinner hairline, or slower regrowth, this message is important because the issue may not be what you're missing in your diet. It may be what you're eating too much of every single day, thinking it's healthy. Fruit is often labeled as nature's candy, but here's the truth most people don't hear. As we age, our metabolism, insulin sensitivity, gut absorption, and hormonal balance all change. And certain fruits, especially when eaten incorrectly, can spike blood sugar, raise inflammation, disrupt hormones, and silently starve hair follicles of the nutrients and oxygen they need to survive. Hair is not essential for survival. When the body is under metabolic stress, the first thing it shuts down is hair growth. If you are over 50 and watching your hair slowly disappear, you are not imagining it, and you are not alone. What most people don't realize is that hair loss at this stage of life is rarely about genetics alone. It is about blood sugar, it is about insulin, and it is about silent inflammation happening every single day, driven by foods you were told were healthy, especially sugar-heavy fruits and fruit juices. After 50, the body does not process sugar the way it once did. Muscle mass declines, insulin receptors become less responsive, and glucose stays in the bloodstream longer. Every time blood sugar spikes, insulin is released to push that sugar into cells. But when this happens repeatedly, day after day, year after year, insulin stops working efficiently. This state, known as insulin resistance, is one of the most overlooked drivers of age-related hair loss. Here is the shocking part. Hair follicles are extremely sensitive to metabolic stress. They are not essential for survival, so when the body senses danger, inflammation, or instability, hair growth is one of the first systems to be shut down. Elevated blood sugar triggers inflammation at the cellular level, damaging the tiny blood vessels that supply oxygen and nutrients to the scalp. Less blood flow means weaker follicles. Weaker follicles mean thinner hair. Eventually, those follicles stop producing hair altogether. Scientific research shows that chronic high insulin levels increase the activity of an enzyme called 5-alpha reductase. This enzyme converts testosterone into DHT, a hormone directly linked to follicle miniaturization. Even in women, elevated DHT can silently shrink hair follicles over time. This is not sudden hair loss. This is slow, progressive thinning that creeps up year after year until one day you look in the mirror and barely recognize your hair. Fruit juice is one of the fastest ways to trigger this process. When fruit is juiced, the fiber is stripped away. Fiber is what slows sugar absorption and protects the body from glucose spikes. Without it, fructose hits the bloodstream almost immediately. Studies have shown that liquid sugar produces a much higher insulin response than solid food. One glass of juice can spike blood sugar as much as a can of soda, sometimes even more. And unlike soda, people drink juice every day, believing it is healing them. Repeated glucose spikes increase cortisol, the body's main stress hormone. Cortisol pushes hair follicles into the telogen phase, the resting and shedding phase of the hair cycle. When cortisol stays elevated, follicles never re-enter the growth phase properly. This is why people under chronic stress lose hair, and this is why metabolic stress caused by sugar has the same effect. Fructose creates another hidden problem. Unlike glucose, fructose is processed almost entirely in the liver. Excess fructose increases fat accumulation in liver cells, leading to insulin resistance even faster. This metabolic overload increases oxidative stress throughout the body. Oxidative stress damages proteins, lipids, and DNA, including the delicate structures inside hair follicles. Once oxidative damage reaches a critical point, follicles lose their ability to produce strong hair shafts. Research published in dermatology and endocrinology journals consistently shows that people with insulin resistance, prediabetes, or metabolic syndrome experience higher rates of hair thinning, especially at the crown and frontal scalp. In women, this often appears as diffuse thinning. In men, it accelerates pattern hair loss. The root cause is not age alone. It is metabolic instability. Even fruits eaten whole can become a problem after 50 when portions are too large or when fruit is eaten alone. A bowl of grapes or multiple bananas may seem harmless, but the sugar load can overwhelm aging insulin pathways. Each spike causes inflammation, and inflammation interferes with nutrient delivery. Iron, zinc, biotin, and amino acids may be present in the diet, but inflammation blocks their absorption and transport to the scalp. Hair follicles require a constant supply of oxygen and nutrients. They rely on stable blood sugar to maintain growth signals. When glucose levels swing up and down, blood vessels constrict and dilate unpredictably. This unstable circulation starves follicles intermittently. Over time, intermittent starvation becomes permanent damage. What makes this even more dangerous is that the process is silent. There is no pain, no immediate warning. Hair does not fall out overnight. It thins slowly, strand by strand, cycle by cycle. By the time shedding becomes noticeable, the metabolic damage has often been happening for years. Studies also show that high sugar intake reduces nitric oxide availability. Nitric oxide is critical for blood vessel dilation. Reduced nitric oxide means reduced scalp circulation. Reduced circulation means weaker roots. This is why people with diabetes often experience hair loss on the scalp, legs, and arms. It is not coincidence. It is circulation failure driven by sugar. The good news is that this process is not permanent in its early stages. Hair follicles are resilient when given the right environment. When blood sugar stabilizes, inflammation drops. When inflammation drops, blood flow improves. When blood flow improves, follicles can reawaken. But this only happens when sugar intake is controlled and insulin sensitivity is restored. This is why simply adding supplements without addressing sugar rarely works. You cannot out-supplement metabolic damage. You cannot mask insulin resistance with vitamins. The foundation must be metabolic stability. After 50, fruit must be treated as a tool, not a free food. When consumed correctly, it can support health. When consumed excessively or incorrectly, it accelerates aging at the cellular level, including in the hair. Hair is a reflection of internal balance. When blood sugar is calm, hair cycles normally. When insulin is stable, follicles receive proper signals. When inflammation is low, hair stays anchored and strong. The real tragedy is that millions of people are losing their hair not because of fate, but because of daily habits they were told were healthy. Once you understand this connection, you are no longer powerless. You are informed, and informed choices can change the direction of your health, your hair, and your aging process. This is not about fear, it is about awareness. Because when metabolism is protected, hair often follows. Most people over 50 are not losing their hair because they chose the wrong fruit. They are losing their hair because they are eating fruit the wrong way, at the wrong time, in the wrong combination, and in portions their aging metabolism can no longer manage. This is the detail that almost no one talks about, and yet it is the difference between hair that survives and hair that slowly disappears. As the body ages, insulin sensitivity declines, digestion slows, stomach acid weakens, and nutrient absorption becomes less efficient. This means the same fruit that caused no problem at 30 can quietly sabotage hair growth at 55 when consumed improperly. Scientific studies show that blood sugar stability is one of the strongest predictors of healthy aging tissues, including skin and hair. When fruit is eaten alone, especially first thing in the morning or late at night, it causes rapid glucose absorption. Without protein, fat, or fiber to slow digestion, sugar floods the bloodstream. This spike triggers insulin, followed by a crash. That crash signals stress. Stress releases cortisol. Cortisol pushes hair follicles into a resting phase. When this pattern repeats daily, follicles remain stuck in rest instead of growth. Research confirms that cortisol directly suppresses the anagen phase of the hair cycle, reducing hair density over time. This is not theory, it is measurable biology. The same fruit eaten with yogurt, nuts, or eggs produces a completely different hormonal response. Protein slows gastric emptying. Fat stabilizes glucose release. Fiber feeds beneficial gut bacteria. Together, they prevent insulin spikes and protect follicle signaling. Studies in metabolic health show that mixed meals reduce post-meal glucose by up to 40% compared to carbohydrates eaten alone. That reduction can be the difference between hair growth and hair loss. Portion size is another silent killer. A single apple is not the same as a large fruit bowl. After 50, the liver's ability to handle fructose decreases. Excess fructose is converted into fat and inflammatory byproducts. These byproducts interfere with zinc, iron, and copper absorption, all minerals essential for hair strength and pigmentation. Even if blood tests appear normal, inflammation prevents these nutrients from reaching the follicle. This is why people supplement endlessly and still see thinning hair. The nutrients are not the problem. Delivery is. Timing matters more than people realize. Eating fruit late at night raises blood sugar when insulin sensitivity is lowest. Studies show insulin sensitivity can drop by up to 30% in the evening. That means the same fruit causes more damage at night than during the day. Elevated nighttime glucose disrupts melatonin, a hormone essential for hair repair and regeneration. Poor sleep further elevates cortisol, compounding follicle damage. Morning fruit eaten alone creates another issue. After an overnight fast, the body is primed for stability, not sugar shock. A fruit-only breakfast spikes glucose before protein, and fat signals can anchor metabolism. This sets off a cascade of hunger, cravings, inflammation, and hormonal imbalance that lasts all day. Research links breakfast glycemic load with increased oxidative stress markers, which directly damage hair follicle stem cells. The gut plays a central role in this process. Fruit consumed improperly ferments rapidly in the gut, especially when digestion is weak. This fermentation produces gas, bloating, and inflammation. Inflammation damages the intestinal lining, reducing absorption of biotin, B vitamins, and amino acids. These nutrients are the raw materials for keratin, the protein that makes up hair. Without proper absorption, hair shafts become thinner, weaker, and prone to shedding. Studies in gut permeability show a strong association between intestinal inflammation and dermatological conditions, including hair thinning. This is why how you eat matters more than what you eat. Low glycemic fruits like berries behave differently when eaten correctly. Their polyphenols improve insulin sensitivity, reduce oxidative stress, and enhance scalp circulation. But even berries can become harmful when blended into smoothies with no protein or consumed in excessive amounts. Liquid fruit bypasses chewing, accelerates absorption, and overwhelms glucose control. Chewing itself stimulates digestive enzymes and satiety hormones that protect metabolic balance. Remove chewing and you remove protection. This is not about restriction, it is about strategy. Scientific evidence consistently shows that stable blood sugar preserves microcirculation. Hair follicles depend on microcirculation. They are fed by tiny capillaries that are easily damaged by glucose swings. Once these vessels narrow or collapse, follicles starve. This is why people with diabetes often lose hair on the scalp and limbs. It begins with poor glucose control. The tragedy is that many people believe they are doing the right thing by eating fruit freely. But after 50, the rules change. The body demands balance, pairing, moderation, and timing. When fruit is eaten whole, in modest portions, combined with protein or healthy fat during insulin-sensitive hours, it becomes supportive instead of destructive. When eaten carelessly, it accelerates aging at the follicular level. Hair does not lie. It reflects internal chemistry. Stable metabolism sends growth signals. Unstable metabolism sends shutdown signals. Every meal is a message. And when you understand that message, you regain control, because hair loss after 50 is not always inevitable. Often it is nutritional miscommunication, and once that communication is corrected, the body has an extraordinary ability to repair, restore, and regrow. Hair does not fall out without a reason. It is not random. It is not bad luck. It is a biological message. After the age of 50, hair becomes one of the most honest indicators of what is happening inside the body, especially at the metabolic level. Stable metabolism is not just about weight or energy. It is about blood flow, hormone signaling, inflammation control, and nutrient delivery. And when metabolism becomes unstable, hair is one of the first systems to suffer because it is not essential for survival. Scientific research shows that hair follicles are among the most metabolically active structures in the human body. They divide rapidly and require a constant supply of oxygen, glucose, amino acids, minerals, and vitamins. This makes them extremely sensitive to changes in blood sugar. When blood glucose rises sharply and falls quickly, the body interprets this as stress. Stress activates cortisol and adrenaline. These hormones redirect blood flow away from non-essential tissues like hair and toward vital organs. Over time, repeated metabolic stress trains the body to permanently deprioritize hair growth. Stable metabolism means steady blood sugar throughout the day. When blood sugar is stable, insulin remains low and efficient. Low insulin reduces inflammation. Low inflammation protects the tiny capillaries that supply the scalp. These capillaries are microscopic and fragile. Studies show that chronic hyperglycemia damages endothelial cells, the lining of blood vessels. Once these vessels narrow or stiffen, oxygen delivery drops. Hair follicles starve slowly, silently, and progressively. Research from endocrinology journals consistently links insulin resistance with reduced scalp circulation. This is why people with metabolic syndrome often experience thinning at the crown and temples. It is not coincidence. It is circulation failure driven by metabolic instability. Without steady glucose control, nitric oxide production drops. Nitric oxide is essential for vasodilation, the process that allows blood vessels to open and deliver nutrients. Reduced nitric oxide equals reduced follicle nourishment. Hormonal balance is another critical piece. Stable metabolism keeps hormones predictable. Unstable metabolism creates hormonal chaos. Blood sugar spikes raise insulin. High insulin increases androgen activity, including DHT. DHT binds to hair follicles and gradually shrinks them. Over time, follicles become too small to produce visible hair. This process accelerates dramatically when insulin remains elevated for years. Even in women, insulin-driven androgen shifts are a major contributor to diffuse thinning after menopause. Inflammation is the bridge between metabolic instability and hair loss. Every glucose spike produces oxidative stress. Oxidative stress damages cellular proteins and DNA. Hair follicle stem cells are particularly vulnerable. Research shows that oxidative stress shortens the hair growth phase and lengthens the shedding phase. This means hair grows slower, falls out faster, and struggles to return. Stable metabolism reduces oxidative stress and preserves follicle stem cell function. Nutrient delivery depends entirely on metabolic health. You can eat the perfect diet, but if blood sugar is unstable, nutrients do not reach the scalp efficiently. Iron, zinc, copper, selenium, biotin, and amino acids must be transported through the bloodstream. Inflammation blocks this transport. Studies show that chronic low-grade inflammation interferes with mineral absorption and utilization even when intake is adequate. This is why supplementation often fails when metabolic health is ignored. Gut health is deeply tied to metabolic stability. Stable blood sugar supports a healthy gut microbiome. An unhealthy microbiome increases intestinal permeability. allowing inflammatory compounds to enter the bloodstream. This systemic inflammation disrupts hair follicle signaling. Research links gut dysbiosis with hair disorders through immune and inflammatory pathways. When metabolism stabilizes, gut integrity improves, nutrient absorption increases, and hair receives the building blocks it needs. Sleep quality is another overlooked factor. Stable metabolism supports stable circadian rhythms. Blood sugar crashes at night raise cortisol and disrupt melatonin. Melatonin is not just a sleep hormone. It plays a role in hair follicle regeneration and antioxidant defense. Studies show melatonin receptors are present in hair follicles. Poor metabolic control disrupts this repair process, leading to weaker hair cycles. When metabolism stabilizes, sleep deepens, repair improves, and follicles recover. Stress resilience improves with metabolic stability. When blood sugar is balanced, the nervous system remains calm. When it fluctuates, the nervous system stays in fight or flight mode. Chronic sympathetic activation reduces blood flow to the scalp. Over time, this becomes habitual. Research shows chronic stress reduces hair density by altering follicle cycling. Metabolic stability buffers the stress response, protecting hair from stress-induced shedding. The shocking truth is that many people blame age for hair loss when the real cause is decades of metabolic strain finally catching up. After 50, the body no longer compensates for instability. What once caused minor damage now causes visible consequences. Hair becomes the warning signal. The good news is that hair follicles respond positively to improved metabolic conditions. Studies show that improving insulin sensitivity increases microcirculation and reduces inflammatory markers within weeks. Follicles that are dormant but not destroyed can re-enter the growth phase when the environment improves. This is why lifestyle changes often succeed where products fail. Stable metabolism is created through steady meals, proper food combinations, controlled sugar intake, adequate protein, and consistent timing. It is reinforced by movement, sleep, and stress management. When these factors align, the body shifts from survival mode to repair mode. Hair growth is a repair process. Hair is not separate from the body. It is an extension of internal health. When metabolism is chaotic, hair reflects chaos. When metabolism is stable, hair reflects balance. This is not cosmetic. It is physiological truth supported by decades of research. The mistake most people make is chasing surface solutions. Oils, shampoos, serums, and pills cannot override metabolic dysfunction. Hair grows from the inside out. Blood sugar stability sends growth signals. Inflammation sends shutdown signals. The body always follows the strongest signal. After 50, stable metabolism becomes non-negotiable. It is the foundation of healthy aging. When metabolism is protected, circulation improves, hormones stabilize, inflammation falls, nutrients flow, sleep deepens, stress eases, and hair often returns stronger than expected. Hair loss is not always inevitable. Sometimes it is reversible. Sometimes it is preventable. And very often, it is simply the body asking for balance.